Oi, fuck Roy Cohn.
Fuck Roy Cohn.
Fuck Roy Cohn.
Fuck Roy Cohn.
Fuck Roy Cohn. Oh yeah.
Everybody talks about lies. Not enough people talk about distractions. Because the best distraction isn't a lie. The best distraction is a new conversation. A new headline. A new outrage. A new emergency. Something shiny enough that nobody asks about the thing that you said last week. Roy Cohn understood this. If people are arguing about today's claim, they aren't checking yesterday's. And that's where our story starts. Welcome back to I Hate Roy Cohn, and so should you. Also known as How Roy Cohn Ruined the World. Today's episode is about smokescreens, not conspiracy theories, not secret cabals, not hidden messages. Smokescreens. The oldest trick in the book. Get people looking over there, so they stop looking over here. Now see, I grew up around hustlers, not movie hustlers and not Hollywood hustlers, real hustlers. The kind who always had a story, and they always had a reason. Always had an explanation, and the trick was never the lie. The trick was getting you to forget the last one. Because if you remember the last story, the new story becomes a problem. A hustler's greatest enemy isn't skepticism, it's memory. Now here's something that I learned, gang. Smoke screens only work on people who don't carry gas masks. A gas mask isn't skepticism. A gas mask is memory. It's the ability to say, hold on, what happened to the thing we were talking about 5 minutes ago? That's it. That's the whole trick. Remember, because the moment you remember, their performance gets harder. Let's go ahead and take Operation Midnight Hammer, for example. 9 months ago, I was told facilities were obliterated. Not damaged, not degraded, not disrupted, obliterated, gone, finished, done. And today, I'm told that the threat remains urgent. The math isn't mathin'. Today, I'm told that extraordinary measures are still necessary. The cost of the war every day, can you imagine? Just imagine the good that money can be used to help just Americans in general, or even not just Americans, but heaven forbid there might be a surplus. We could use that to, I don't know, maybe help other countries. America first is an isolationist policy, and I think that more people should know the history of that phrase and its ties to not just the Hugo Boss Brigade, but also Charles Lindbergh. I mean, I'm told that Iran cannot be allowed to obtain a nuclear weapon. And every time that I hear that, all I hear is, my name is in the E-Man files. So here's my problem, gang. If the facilities were obliterated, why is this same threat being used to justify the same urgency 9 months later? And if the threat was never actually eliminated, why was I told it was obliterated? One of those statements has a problem. Now maybe the original claim was exaggerated. Maybe the current claim is exaggerated. Maybe both are. But what I refuse to do is pretend that the contradiction doesn't exist. Because that's the trick, you see. The new claim arrives and we're expected to forget the old one. The new emergency arrives and we're expected to stop asking about the last emergency. And new promise arrives and we're expected to stop measuring the previous promise against reality. No. I'm sorry. We're done with this shit. We've been here before. Show your work. Present your evidence. Explain how both statements can be true. And if you can't explain it, don't ask me to pretend I didn't hear the first one. See, what struck me wasn't the disagreement. It was the rarity of the question. Everybody wanted to debate the newest headline. Everybody wanted to debate the newest statement. And then somebody finally said, why do we need to stop Iran from getting a nuclear weapon now if the facilities were obliterated 9 months ago? And suddenly the room gets uncomfortable because continuity entered the conversation. Not politics. Continuity. The most dangerous sentence in politics is often, we've been here before. Because that's the sentence that drags yesterday into today. And that's the sentence that checks the receipts. Every day, as political discourse takes the shape that it's been taking for a little over 10 years now, this is Roy Cohn's ghost. Not because he invented lying. People were lying long before him. Roy Cohn just taught people to survive being caught. Never apologize, never retreat, never concede, attack, redirect, change the subject, move the conversation. The goal isn't to win the argument. The goal is to escape the question. Let me say that again, gang. The goal isn't to win the argument. The goal is to escape the question. And the reason that Roy Cohn still matters is that the playbook survived him. The names change, but the tactics don't. First comes the claim, then comes the challenge, then comes the refusal, then comes the inversion. The contradiction becomes proof. The criticism becomes evidence. The fact check becomes persecution. The loss becomes validation. And there's the trick, you see. It's not convincing people that you're right. It's convincing them that being challenged proves that you are. Watch it long enough and reality becomes optional. Every setback becomes sabotage and every failure becomes conspiracy. Every question becomes an attack and eventually the evidence no longer matters. Only loyalty does. And that is Roy Cohn's real inheritance. Not a policy, a method. Let's take the 2020 election, gang. More than 60 lawsuits failed. Courts rejected claim after claim. The evidence never arrived. But the story didn't retreat. It expanded. Every loss became proof of corruption. Every judge became compromised. Every contradiction became another layer of the conspiracy. The legal defeats didn't weaken the narrative, they strengthened it. Because under the Roy Cohn playbook, being disproven isn't a problem. Being challenged becomes the evidence. That's the inversion. That's the magic trick. Under normal circumstances, evidence tests a claim. Under the Roy Cohn playbook, evidence tests loyalty. A court rejects the claim, the court's corrupt. A lawsuit fails, the judge is compromised. A conviction occurs, the system is rigged. Sound familiar? The contradiction doesn't weaken the story. The contradiction becomes part of the story. Now reality stops functioning as a referee, and then reality suddenly becomes another opponent. And once that happens, evidence loses its job. The question is no longer, is this true? The question becomes, are you loyal? And once people start asking that question instead, reality loses its leverage. And this is where I land. Present your evidence. Not trust me, not trust them, not trust nobody. Present your evidence. Show your work. Connect today's claim to yesterday's claim. If they fit together, great. If they don't, explain why. That's accountability. Not outrage, not tribalism. Simply accountability. A smokescreen only works if you forget what was behind it. A gas mask is memory. The ability to say, hold on, we've been here before. Present your evidence. See, Roy Cohn's philosophy was never about strength, it was about simulating strength through perpetual victimhood. And as a tactic that he drilled into bone spurs during their 70s mentorship, and the core doctrine was never concede, never apologize, and weaponize every loss as proof of persecution. The most important thing is to remember in 1973 when the Justice Department did sue Trump for racially excluding black tenants. But then he engineered Trump's $100 million countersuit against the U.S. government claiming reverse discrimination. You see exactly how his playbook worked every single time. The case settled, but the narrative stuck. Accountability was persecution, facts were conspiracies, and the aggressor wore victims' robes. In 1989, comes the financial gaslighting. You see, as the Taj Mahal collapsed under $3 billion in debt, it's not like he admitted that he was reckless about it. Instead, he sued New Jersey regulators for quote-unquote targeting them. And these bureaucrats hate winners, he spat to the Philadelphia Inquirer, spinning bankruptcy into a political hit job. Even as banks seized his assets, he branded lenders as vultures. I mean, it's a term that Reagan's SNL crisis team later weaponized. Just proving Roy Cohn's his playbook. It's infected the entire GOP bloodstream, gang. There's really no other way to put it. Governing has become performance grievance. Think about it as COVID death surged under Bone Spur's first neglect. He told Sean Hannity that the numbers are fake. They're inflating them to make me look bad. And privately, he admitted to Bob Woodward, I wanted to play it down. The contradiction was the point. Bully the truth and then claim that the truth is bullying you. Roy Cohn taught generations of people how to win arguments. He never taught them how to answer questions. That's why the most dangerous thing you can say isn't you're lying, it's we've been here before. Present your evidence. And as always, fuck Roy Cohn.
Oi, fuck Roy Cohn.
Fuck Roy Cohn.
Fuck Roy Cohn.
Fuck Roy Cohn.
Fuck Roy Cohn. Oh yeah.